A barefoot, hungry boy slipped through the gates of a palatial estate and saw the magnate's daughter sitting in silence, her face clouded with sadness. Then he did something no one expected. He began to dance, not for money, not for food, but simply to make her smile. What happened next would change all of their lives forever. Alistair Croft was one of the wealthiest men in the Pacific Northwest. His empire, built on tech innovation and vast timber holdings, earned him the nickname, the Titan, for his Midas touch in business. Yet, behind the secure gates of his Lake Washington compound, his greatest struggle was not commerce. It was the silence of a daughter whose laughter he longed to hear again. His only daughter, Chloe, once a bright, lively 10-year-old, had been left paralyzed after a tragic accident that also claimed the life of his wife, Sophia. Once her laughter rang through the house like music. Once she ran through the gardens, chasing dragonflies. But now she sat quietly in her wheelchair, staring out the window at the rain, her spirit dimmed. Alistair tried to fight it with his wealth. He flew her to Switzerland for specialized care, to Japan for cutting-edge robotics therapy, to every leading clinic in the world. Every attempt ended in the same crushing disappointment. Chloe's smile faded. Her laughter disappeared. She rarely left her room except when her caregiver, Maria, rolled her into the glass-enclosed conservatory. Alistair, though formidable and detached in the boardroom, felt his heart break a little more each day. But one misty Seattle afternoon, something unexpected happened. Chloe sat quietly among the orchids, her eyes fixed on the dripping world outside. She noticed a movement in the corner of her eye. A boy, barefoot and in worn-out clothes, slipped quietly through a gap in the hedges. His jacket was too thin for the climate, his jeans frayed. His hair was damp from the drizzle, his knuckles scraped. But when he looked at Chloe, his eyes sparkled with gentle mischief. Then, without a word, he began to dance. It wasn't a professional dance. His steps were exaggerated and funny, his arms swung wildly, his body twisting and spinning in ways that made him look wonderfully ridiculous. At first, Chloe just blinked. Then a small giggle escaped her lips. The boy made his eyes wide and pretended to slip on a phantom puddle, catching himself dramatically. Chloe clapped her hands. And then, like a miracle, she laughed. It was pure, unrestrained laughter that echoed under the glass dome. The boy grinned and danced harder, spinning, hopping, rolling on the manicured grass. Chloe's laughter grew louder. His name was Kai. At least, that's what he called himself. Nobody knew his full story. What people in the neighborhood did know was that Kai had no home. Some nights he slept in a donated sleeping bag under the overpass near the ferry terminal. Other nights he found shelter in the storage room of a sympathetic market owner. He had no parents anyone had seen, no siblings, and no bed except the hard ground. Kai had one thing that kept him alive, his joy. When hunger was strong and sleep would not come, he danced. When people shooed him away, he danced. He danced for strangers on the pier. And sometimes they gave him a few dollars. Dancing made him feel alive. It was his voice, his shield, his way of escaping the pain of being unseen. That afternoon, Kai was wandering past the billionaire's estate. He peered through the wrought iron gate and saw Chloe sitting quietly nearby, her face resting on her hand, her eyes fixed sadly on the floor tiles. Something moved inside him. He thought, I know what that feels like. But if I dance for her, maybe I can make her smile. Maybe I can chase her sadness away. So, Kai slipped through the hedges and stepped into the conservatory. He began to dance. When Chloe laughed, it felt to him like a victory greater than finding a warm meal. Her laughter made his heart race. In those precious minutes, Kai forgot that he was barefoot, hungry, and without a home. He wasn't a beggar or a boy from the street. He was simply a child bringing joy to another child. What Kai did not realize was that he was changing her life, and his own, forever. Inside the mansion, Alistair Croft heard it. He froze. He hadn't heard that sound in over a year. He rushed to the second-floor landing that overlooked the conservatory, expecting a miracle. And in a way, he did. His daughter was laughing, clapping, her eyes alive again. And the source of her joy was not medicine, not therapy, not money. It was a homeless boy dancing barefoot in his home. Alistair's first reaction was anger. How had this boy entered his property? Where was security? His fists clenched. He almost called out, ready to have the boy removed immediately. But then he saw Chloe. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement. Her arms were moving, clapping with strength he hadn't seen in months. Her laughter, loud, uncontrolled, full of life, filled the air. Alistair froze in his tracks. For over a year, he had spent millions chasing doctors and treatments, only to watch his daughter sink deeper into despair. Now, in less than 10 minutes, this barefoot boy had brought her back to life. He didn't understand it. He didn't trust it. But he couldn't deny what he was seeing. He hid behind a structural column, watching silently. His chest tightened, not with anger this time, but with something he had almost forgotten, hope. Kai came back the next afternoon. He didn't sneak in to steal, he came because he now carried a mission in his heart, make Chloe laugh again. He had slept under a bridge, his stomach empty, but he woke up with a smile. He had found something bigger than hunger, purpose. As he slipped through the hedges, he saw her waiting, eyes bright, hands already ready to clap. "Ready for the encore?" he asked, striking a playful pose. Chloe giggled and nodded. Before he could start, Alistair Croft stepped out. Kai froze. He knew that look. The adult anger that comes before being shouted at or chased away. He held his breath, prepared to run. Chloe's voice broke the tension. "Daddy, please don't send him away. Please." Alistair studied the boy up close. The jacket was soaked through. The jeans were muddy. The boy was barefoot, with old scars on his feet that told stories no child should have to tell. But his eyes were steady. Not arrogant, not weak, just steady. "What's your name?" Alistair asked. "Kai," the boy replied. "Why did you come in here?" Kai swallowed. "I saw her. She looked sad the first day. I thought maybe if I danced, she would laugh. I didn't come to take anything, sir. I only came to give something small." The words were simple, but they sank into Alistair like rain on parched earth. "Where do you stay?" Alistair asked, softer now. "Anywhere," Kai said. "The ferry terminal. Sometimes I dance for spare change. Sometimes I just dance so the cold doesn't feel so deep." Chloe's eyes filled. "He makes me happy, Daddy." Alistair glanced at his daughter. Her cheeks were glowing. He noticed her fingers tap against her wheelchair arm. It was a small movement, but it was one he hadn't seen in months. He took a breath. "Okay. You can stay for today. Right here where I can see you. Do you understand?" Kai nodded quickly, relief washing over his face. He turned to Chloe with a grin. "Showtime?" She clapped. And just like that, the conservatory became a stage again. One day turned into 3. 3 turned into a week. Security was told to let the boy pass. "He comes at 4 o'clock, Alistair instructed. "He leaves at 6 o'clock. He eats before he goes." Kai arrived each day with new ideas. He danced like a leaf caught in the wind. He told funny stories about seagulls stealing tourists' food. He acted out dramatic scenes between ferry deckhands. He fell dramatically, stood up grandly, and bowed like a maestro until Chloe's laughter shook her shoulders. But it wasn't just laughter. Something else was happening. Chloe's hands grew stronger from clapping. She started lifting her arms to copy Kai's moves. Her voice grew more confident. She even tried to pivot her wheelchair when he spun on the floor. Alistair watched all of this quietly. He noticed how Kai never asked for anything. How he always checked Chloe's face before trying a new joke. How he expected nothing but claps, yet when food was offered, he ate with a quiet gratitude that spoke volumes. In the evenings, after Kai left, Chloe spoke more. "Daddy, did you see his seagull impression? Daddy, today I felt a tingle in my foot. Daddy, can he come tomorrow?" Her doctor was surprised during a checkup. "Her cognitive and emotional engagement is remarkable," he said. "This kind of positive stimulus can spark neural pathways we can't always predict. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." That night, Alistair stood alone in the conservatory. He felt a gratitude that didn't come from a bank transfer. He whispered into the humid air, "Thank you, boy." And though no one was there to hear it, the world seemed to agree. The miracle happened on an ordinary afternoon. The rain pattered softly on the glass roof, and a distant ship horn sounded on the lake. Kai was in the middle of a slow-motion dance, moving as if he were underwater. Chloe laughed so hard she dropped the blanket from her lap. "Wait," she said, catching her breath. "Let me try something." She placed both hands on the armrests of her wheelchair. Her face tightened with effort. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then her shoulders rose, then her chest, then slowly her hips lifted an inch, then two. She held herself there, trembling, for 3 long seconds. 1, Kai whispered, eyes wide. 2, Alistair counted, stepping forward without realizing it. 3, Chloe breathed, before sinking back into the chair, panting and smiling, her eyes wet. A holy silence fell over the room. Kai broke it with a shout. "You did it! You did it!" He spun and dropped to his knees beside her. "Champion!" Alistair knelt on the other side, his hands shaking as he touched his daughter's forehead. "You are so brave," he said. "I am so proud of you." Chloe reached for both of them. One small hand for her father, one for her friend. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. "When he dances, I feel like I can move." That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He walked the hallways of his home, his footsteps echoing. He thought of his pride, his image, his name. It was a battle between what the world expected and what his heart was telling him. By dawn, he had realized something. Reputation couldn't heal his daughter. Money hadn't saved her laughter. But Kai, a boy with nothing, had given her hope. One afternoon, Alistair called Kai to sit with him. For the first time, the boy wasn't asked to dance. He was asked to talk. "Tell me about yourself," Alistair said. Kai hesitated. "Nobody ever asked." "I don't know where I was born," he began softly. "I remember my grandma for a little while, but she passed. I stayed at a group home for a bit, then. I just stayed moving. I sleep where it's dry." "Why do you dance?" Alistair asked. Kai smiled faintly. "When you're cold and alone, it feels heavy. If you just sit, the sadness wins. But if you move, if you dance, it feels lighter. People sometimes see you. For a minute, you don't feel invisible." Alistair nodded slowly. He had everything the world valued, yet sitting before him was a boy who had learned a deeper truth without any teacher: joy is a form of resistance. "From today," Alistair said firmly, "you are not invisible anymore. You are part of this house." Kai blinked, unsure. But when Chloe wheeled herself closer and grabbed his hand, he realized he was no longer just a boy from the streets. He was becoming family. The true turning point came another day. Kai was doing a silly dance with imaginary rain boots while Chloe clapped. "I want to try standing," she announced, her voice strong and clear. Kai stopped. Alistair, sitting nearby, tensed but stayed quiet. Chloe placed her hands on the handles. Her arms shook, but she pushed hard. Slowly, painfully, she rose. Her knees trembled, but she straightened them. She wasn't standing tall, but she was up, her feet flat on the ground for the first time since the accident. Alistair's heart slammed in his chest. Maria, the caregiver, gasped from the doorway. Kai shouted with joy. "You're standing, Chloe. You're standing." Chloe held herself for 3 seconds, her body trembling like a bird, before falling gently back into the chair. Instead of crying, she laughed. "I stood. Did you see me, Daddy? I stood." Alistair knelt beside her, tears blurring his vision. "I saw, sweetheart. I have never been prouder." That night, Alistair found Kai sitting on the patio steps, staring out at the dark lake, as if unsure he truly belonged. "You shouldn't be out here alone," Alistair said gently. "I'm used to it, sir." "Not anymore," Alistair replied, his voice steady with promise. "This is your home now. You are part of this family. You'll have your own room, you'll go to school, and you will never again have to wonder where you will sleep." Kai's eyes widened. "Thank you, sir," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Listen to me, Kai," Alistair said, his own eyes glistening. "I know what you've given my daughter. You gave her something no money could buy. Hope. And anyone who gives hope is not just worth knowing. They are worth loving." For the first time in his life, Kai felt truly seen. Tears slipped down his cheeks. That night, he lay on a soft bed, safe under a roof in a place he could finally call home. The story eventually swept across the city. The powerful Titan had opened his home to a boy from the streets. Some called it reckless, others called it courage. Some of Alistair's partners pulled him aside. "Alistair, this will damage your reputation. A street kid? What if he steals? Think of your image." But Alistair had changed. "My image," he said calmly. "My daughter is standing again. My daughter is smiling again. That is the only image I care about." In the middle of it all, Kai remained humble. He didn't care about gossip. Every day he just danced. Every day he laughed with Chloe. The mansion that once echoed with silence was now filled with life. Alistair was no longer just a titan of industry. He was a father who had rediscovered joy. And with Kai, he found himself guiding, teaching, protecting, acting like a father again. One evening, as the sun set behind the Olympic Mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Alistair stood watching Chloe take careful steps with Kai holding her hand. The sound of her laughter mixed with his playful shouts filled the cool air. In that moment, Alistair understood something he had never truly known. Money was useful, yes, but true wealth was not in bank accounts or business deals. True wealth was in the laughter of his daughter, in the courage of a boy who refused to be broken by the world, and in the love that bound them all together. He whispered to himself, "I thought I had everything. But I had nothing until I met this boy." From that day, Alistair Croft became known not just as a wealthy man, but as a man of heart. Kai was no longer the homeless boy. He was part of the Croft family. And Chloe's story became a beacon of hope. A reminder that sometimes the healing we need does not come from medicine or money, but from love, kindness, and the most unexpected friendships.